Highland Perthshire is a long way from Sicily. It's even further from the main streets of New York. And it probably doesn't seem like the natural home for mafia activity. And yet, if you're interested in the people, places and events in Scottish history, then click the subscribe button at the bottom right of the screen. In the meantime, let me tell you a story. If you don't see the link between the Scottish Highlands and the mafia, then consider for a moment that American mob bosses and the Scotch whisky barons were not only complementary, but essentially came about for the same reasons. And at one point, they came together here in the Perthshire Highlands. From the time of James VI to Queen Victoria, Scottish and then British authorities sought to restrict or tax the production, movement and sale of Uisge, the water of life. Sometimes the restriction was the imposition of tax, sometimes a limit on volume, commerce, or a prohibition on crossing the Highland line just south of here. Sometimes the taxes were imposed to bring Scots in line with English neighbours to whom they'd been bound. Other times to raise funds during wartime, a very particular example of which we'll see at the end. Or sometimes to encourage desired social behaviours. Many of the same reasons spirit duties are imposed today. What it did do was to create a culture where Highland smuggling and disregard for London laws were endemic, and smugglers seemed like heroes rather than villains. Then, in 1823, everything changed. The 1823 Excise Act, known as the Wash Act, dramatically reduced taxation, so licensing a distillery and going legit was now a viable option. Instead of farmers' grain being distilled in Uisge in hidden glens in the dark and night, moonshiners became whisky distillers, smugglers became sales executives, criminals became legitimate businessmen. There's a thin line between criminals and capitalists, and that line is moved by politicians. Here at Pitlochry, a group of farmers got together as a cooperative and they used their barley for the greater good. That was in 1825. Of course, the business went through highs and lows, grew, shrank, people died, management changed, consolidation, growth, and that roller coaster ride went on for 100 years. It was a period when Scots were emigrating. Some forced, some voluntary. But they took with them the taste for whisky and a ready export market for the newly legitimised Mountain Dew. A European vineyard killing bug and relaxation of blending rules later, and whisky was popular, freely available and legal. Until it wasn't. In 1920, the US decided that alcohol should be illegal. The whisky industry in Scotland was, of course, devastated. The organised crime in America, they were doing very well, thank you very much. Just like Scotland before, ordinary people wanted a drink. When laws don't reflect society, people have no compunction about breaking the rules. That thin blue line between criminals and business peoples gets blurred. Law enforcers get compromised and the public are complicit in it all. Taxation in Scotland created a whisky industry. Prohibition in America created organised crime. And when American accents were heard here in the Highlands, you could be pretty sure that the two had come together. A regular route for Scotch whisky was first to Canada and then south, Boston, New York and New Jersey, and then on to speakeasies across America. It's said that one of the folk involved in this smuggling was Joe Kennedy, whose son would become President John F. Kennedy. There's a thin line between criminal and legal, and it's the politicians who draw it. Even more important to our story was a man called Frank Costello. Frank Costello would become the capo di tutti capi, the boss of bosses, the head honcho, the big cheese, numero uno, the cojones de perro, the boss of the dog. You may not realize it, but you know him because he was the model for Don Corleone in the film The Godfather. When Prohibition came in, he went to the tiny island of Saint Pierre, just off Newfoundland, and persuaded the local mayor that he could bring jobs and a commission per case of whiskey that went through the island. A strengthened pier and warehouses later, shipments of whiskey were flowing from Scotia's shores. Now, speaking of things flowing from Scotia's shores, I'm touring my comedy show, Stories of Scotland, in Australia, New Zealand, and then back home here to Scotland in 2023. So come and have a laugh and learn some Scottish history along the way. I'll leave links for the information and tickets in the description below. Don't miss it. It's at this point I should probably mention a Yorkshireman called William Whiteley. He had a bit of a reputation for flirting with that thin line that we've been talking about. He had a sacking, court cases, and a struck off business behind him. But 2 years into American Prohibition, he was now thriving with a spirits distribution and export business. Now, I'm no one to talk, but I hear a lot of the products Whiteley was shifting were going through the hands of a certain Frank Costello. In fact, between you, me, and the Garden Gate Post, Costello imported so much of Whiteley's product that he was appointed US sales consultant on $5,000 a year in the 1920s. I hear tell there's consultant techniques involved sending a bunch of guys to visit bars and clubs in New York where whiskey was illegal and making them unrefusable offers to stock Whiteley's products. Now, I'm not saying it happened. I'm not saying it didn't. I'm no grass. This is just between you and me. Now, Whiteley didn't own this distillery. He was a blender and a distributor rather than a manufacturer. But records show that he was buying Edredauer whiskey as a key ingredient of his blends. The most successful of his whiskies containing that new ingredient was called King's Ransom. This was a high quality whiskey designed for the American market at a time when there was no legal American market. But in 1933, Prohibition in the USA ended. This would be a bonanza for alcohol manufacturers. Hold on. Whiteley didn't manufacture any whiskey. What if distilleries found more convenient legal export routes direct? They might not supply Whiteley with the whiskey that he needed for King's Ransom. It might come as no surprise that in 1933, when Prohibition was lifted, Whiteley bought Edredauer Distillery. He could now manufacture and export to America legally. Did he have an American distributor for this new above-board trade, you say? Of course he did. Frank Costello, the erstwhile mafia boss, set up a legitimate business called Alliance Distributors. Sales grew in America and Whiteley's business was kept busy and profitable until 5 years later when he sold up. And when he did sell, he sold to an American called Irving Hyam. Why did Mr. Hyam want to cross the Atlantic to buy the smallest distillery in Scotland, you might ask? Andrew Cameron's book on the Edredauer Distillery asks exactly that question. Not only that, but the very same question was asked in the 1950s by the US Senate Special Committee to investigate crime in interstate commerce. But they didn't ask Mr. Hyam. They quizzed a known associate of his, none other than Frank Costello, the tutti frutti caputi of the mafioso. The committee knew that he had tried to buy this business and they wanted to know why. Costello said that he'd wanted to buy Whiteley's business so that Alliance distributors would have exclusive rights to distribute brands like King's Ransom throughout the USA. Unfortunately, his bid wasn't successful, but the business was acquired by Irving Haim, a known associate. And Alliance distributors were the sole distributors of Whiteley's brands. What a happy coincidence! Costello must have made an offer that couldn't be refused that was refused. But he still got what he wanted out of the offer anyway. It seems that Costello was always the winner, except for the night of the 5th of February 1941. A ship sailed out of Liverpool in bad weather. It steamed north as a swell and howling gale caused the Isle of Man to pitch and yaw, and still it steamed towards the North Channel. The contents of its hold included cargo that would deliver hard cash for the British war effort. Bonded warehouses in Glasgow and Leith had been damaged by German bombing, and some of the stock that remained was being sent to America on a ship called the SS Politician. That cargo included King's Ransom. Now, I don't need to tell anyone who's seen the film Whiskey Galore that the SS Politician went aground off the Isle of Barra, and once all hands were saved, there followed a clandestine community reclamation of that precious cargo under the dead of night. There's a thin blue line between salvage and theft, and that line was drawn on the SS Politician. Oh, the Cayley's and the pleasure, oh, the joy in Castle Bay, as the gurgling golden treasure chased the cares of war away. Oh, the bottles that were hidden, buried deep beneath the croft. Oh, the cases in the midden, oh, the joy up in the loft. Who would heed an air raid warning? Who would hide himself in fright with a tumbler in the morning and a bumper late at night? Some of those tumblers, drunk by the good folks of Barra, contained King's Ransom. They may or may not have known that it was the most expensive blended whisky in the world at the time. What they certainly wouldn't realise was that when they informally salvaged a British Admiralty ship, they were also stealing from the New York Mafia. I've made a 10-minute video on the history of Scotch whisky, and it's coming up on screen now. Watch it. In the meantime, ha mi an dóchas go bí lá mála. Sherry and Drasta.